Hi, I'm Camille Nash. Welcome to the Park Nicollet Foundation January Coffee Chat. I'm excited to be here today with Chris Van Lith, and we're going to talk a little bit about some growth and accomplishments and things that have changed in volunteer services. And then we're also going to look at what's ahead for the new year. This honeycomb shows a list of some of the volunteer roles that we have. Most of those roles involve patient interaction, but even the ones that don't are important because they mean that when the volunteer is helping out, then medical teams can focus their attention on the patients more fully. There are also advisory committees that are meeting monthly. The Methodist Hospital Advisory Committee meeting has been held every month during the pandemic, which is really impressive. And a lot of the clinics and departments are bringing back their advisory committees. The advisory committees meet to provide patient perspective and feedback to improve patient experience here at Park Nicollet. The discharge role has been huge. It's come back this past year, and I'll let Chris talk with you about it a little bit. And then we've also had special projects, lots of varied special projects. So we've always asked volunteers when we've needed an extra set of hands if they can jump in and help. And in the past year, because of the shortage of staffing that's been experienced all across the country at medical facilities, volunteers have stepped in to help in ways that help our medical teams be able to focus on the patients. So, for example, volunteers have helped deliver uh, food trays up to patients in rooms. They've helped fold gowns, patient gowns, so that the tangled gowns coming from the laundry that doesn't have enough staff to fold the gowns, they're folded by the volunteers to make it easy for our staff to access. And then things like special projects. We had volunteers cutting out paper clocks and hands, and the teams on the floors were using that as a simple tool to remind them when they needed to rotate patients in order to prevent bed sores. So simple technology, but very effective. So volunteers have helped in this way and in many other ways. Here's a picture of some of our patients, and I hope that you excuse me, some of our volunteers, and I hope that you recognize some of the people here. Traditionally, our volunteers have been made up of grateful patients. They're also community members, and just a wide range from 16 years old to early 90s in age. So really wonderful cross section. So typically, our patients came to us as grateful patients, and that's still the case. But during the pandemic, when we paused the program, we had some people retire. And so in 2023, we did a lot of active volunteering in order to build the number of volunteers that we had. So we did that reaching out to 9 different universities and colleges and high schools. And so that was really great. And we also have a couple of new programs that we started and brought new volunteers in. And Chris is going to talk with you about that too in a few minutes. So I'm going to talk with you about the impact of volunteer services in terms of hours and what the value of that is. But I want to say first that when we talk about the impact of volunteer service, I think our volunteers know that the real impact they have is on the way they touch the lives of patients. So often when patients are here in the hospital, it's a challenging, difficult time for them. They may be afraid and lonely, and our volunteers have an opportunity to really sort of touch the hearts of our patients. And I can say for myself that when I had loved ones in the hospital, it was sometimes someone reaching out to me and offering me support or a kind word. And those are the things I remember. And I think that that's really the legacy of our volunteers is the impact that they have on countless patients. That you may never know the impact that you have, but we know that there's a big impact on patients and how they feel about their experience. So now, if you look at this slide, this shows the number of volunteers that we had that served in 2023, 661 volunteers, which was fantastic, a really nice growth. And they contributed over 78,000 hours of service taking care of patients and assisting staff. And that comes to $2,488,636. So that's the value of it. And the reason that they wound up at that dollar amount is there's an organization called Independent Sector, and working with the the public policy group at the University of Delaware. They look across all the different sectors at earnings possible from workers in those sectors. They exclude farming and managerial positions, but if they average all of those different sectors together, they come up with a dollar amount of $30.81 for volunteer hours. So that's really impressive. And where those hours sure added up this past year. And then, there was a huge return on investment. So the number that's posted up here on the screen is from last year. We haven't been able to tabulate the new number yet. We're still working on a couple of things. But for every dollar we invest in the program, we know that more than $4 comes back in return of value. This is a really fun slide to look at. We are looking at the growth in the programs. And I initially had numbers up from 2022, but there was just too much on the screen. So simplified it. We want to show you just sort of across the board where growth has been. And mind you, there are lots and lots of departments and areas where we had tremendous growth that I couldn't fit on this slide, but I just wanted to give you a good cross section. So Frau and Schuh Cancer Clinic, a 22% increase in the number of volunteers and the hours they gave. 26 volunteers gave over 4,000 hours. The Emergency Center, which was one of the last departments that opened after the pandemic paused, 34 volunteers gave 1,715 hours, and that was a super impressive 61% growth in between 2022 and 2023. Discharge escorts, 75%. I'm not going to steal Chris's thunder, so I'm going to let her tell you about that. Crafters, we had 61 people give 32,000 hours. And I have to share with you that this is the one that I was a little nervous about. We knew a lot of people wanted to contribute during the pandemic because they were isolated. They took up knitting and crocheting and they wanted to be able to contribute. And my goal was to try to keep those people engaged and contributing, because those crafts we know are individual touch points. Each prayer shawl, each prayer cloth, each teddy bear, each blanket, each of those things is an individual touch point and a way to comfort an individual patient. So they're important. Well, not only did we keep the number of volunteers, but we grew the program by 33%. So that many more items coming in for our patients. And caring Canine teams grew 62%, giving us 542 hours. And then the TRIA program is a physical therapy program, and there are TRIA clinics all across the metro. The biggest one is in Bloomington, but their program doubled in size from the previous year. And so there were 34 volunteers that gave 1,633 hours. And their program is designed for students looking for hours to volunteer at a physical therapy site in order to apply to graduate school. So that's what that is. So great growth all across the board. I'll take a minute here and just let you read the quotes from our two volunteers, Carol Henderson, who many of you know. She's a regular volunteer here at the clinic that we see often, and she's here very frequently. And then Muhammad Ali, who is a weekend volunteer, who was a student who came to us and has been volunteering. And this, if you read our volunteer newsletter or the quarterly newsletter that we send out to all of our volunteers, you may have seen this cover story that Haley entered and what she wrote. And with your permission, I'm going to read this to you. Haley said, "Often those who come through our hospital and clinic doors are experiencing illness, injury, pain, and suffering. They may be in the depths of one of the darkest times in their lives. In the midst of the uncertainty and fear, however, there is a sea of purple coats, volunteers who give the gift of a smile, a helping hand, and a moment of togetherness. The difference you make in the lives of our patients and their families means the world and gives the gift of hope to all you encounter." And so as we begin 2024, I want to say thank you. Thank you for giving so generously of yourselves and for being the helpers in our midst who remind us that there is always hope. I think what I like best about this quote from Haley is her reference to that gift of a moment of togetherness, because we know when people are going through a health crisis or going through grief, that's a moment that a person can feel terribly lonely. And to be there to help shoulder a little of that burden of loneliness is truly a privilege, and it's a gift to the volunteer. So thank you, Haley, for that. And now I'm going to pass this on to Chris, and she's going to talk a little bit about some of the other programs and roles. Chris?
Sure. Hello, everyone. I'm Chris Van Lith from Volunteer Services. I am going to talk about some of the programs that were successful in 2023. First off, we're going to talk about the discharge relaunch of the volunteers in 2023. Nancy Holden, who's not here, did a fantastic job of bringing this program up and running into a very successful year for us. With discharge, our goal is to create a positive impression when patients leave our hospital. Often, the discharge volunteer is the last person that the patient sees as they leave our hospital. So it's those interactions that we cherish and hope that they walk away with feeling good about themselves. As you can see, it was launched in on September 12th, 2022. We did all sorts of changing, using new applications, using new technology, and Nancy worked very diligently to make sure all of this worked. So looking at the numbers a little bit from our discharge, so a discharge averages about 21 minutes from the time we get the call until we get the patient out to their awaiting ride. We transported over 3,100 patients to their awaiting cars, which saved an estimate time of 1,085 hours. And if you look at that, that is 1,085 hours that staff has to help other patients and do the other parts of their job. So we're helping them kind of get back to what they really should be doing. There were 61 volunteers in 2023, putting in about 6,862 hours. And covering of all the shifts, and again, I give Nancy credit, we covered about 97% of all shifts, which is a 7-day a week program. So that's pretty impressive. Next, we're going to talk about another program that Nancy's been working on. It's called My Life, My Story. This is where volunteers will go in and speak to patients and hear their stories. We all have a story. We all have a life story. And so they meet with the patients to capture their unique stories in about 1,000 words. They translate that and then give it back to the patient for their approval and for final edits. And then we upload the story into the system, giving staff, doctors, nurses, the ability to review that patient's story, which is a wonderful way for them to connect and get a sense of knowing their patients. Once we upload the story, we actually provide a copy to the family or to the patient or the family for them to keep so they know what is in the system regarding them. We also have been partnering with the community in a number of areas. First of all, this is the Eastside Neighborhood. Eastside Neighborhood has a program called Senior Community Service Employment Program Training. This is for people that are over 55. It provides them an opportunity to volunteer within the community, gaining skills, receiving financial support for their volunteering. This is through a grant from the U.S. Department of Labor. And then they volunteer about 20 hours a week, and they can do this for up to 3 years. And then the goal is for them to find employment in the community. This is a photo of Anna, and Anna is, if you've been to the 3850 building and during her schedule, you probably would know who Anna is. She has been a volunteer with us for approximately 9 months and has been helping people wayfind throughout the St. Louis Park Clinic. You can see she has stickers on her desk. She is a very delightful person, always a warm welcome, warm wayfinding, and as she would call it, She refers to her area as the happy place, and she is absolutely delightful there. Another area I'm going to focus on is the birth center. On average, there are 10 births per day or 3,500 births per year in the Methodist Hospital Birth Center, which is a lot, and it really keeps everyone busy. We try to support them through the work of doulas. And so we're reaching out to Everyday Miracles to enhance the education and the benefit of the doulas. The doula is there to support and also to free up the staff to be able to do their job of charting and making sure patient and baby are okay. And then the doula is there to help the patient get through the ordeal and also to help the partner who might be a little bit nervous, let that person know they're part of the process. They should join in, they should help the patient, and also to let them know that things are going to be okay. And just kind of what the process is going on. Our next area within the birth center is the lactation cafe. We have expanded, the lactation cafe helps people with all aspects of breastfeeding. And so we have clinics every week where people can come in and receive that help. We have actually expanded that to Minneapolis, Plymouth, Shakopee, and Brooklyn Center. Brooklyn Center is one of our more diverse communities, which is in line with our Health Partners and Foundation goals regarding diversity, equity, and inclusion. And then finally, our birth center tours. These have been on hold since pre-COVID. Pre-COVID, they were the tours were given by staff. Right now, the tours have just started back last week, and now our volunteers are guiding the tours throughout the birth center. So last week was our maiden voyage. We had 12 people in the class or in the tour, and we are running it twice a week. We now have about 96 people signed up, and we are booked through February. So the volunteers are providing a great service, again, freeing staff up. And so we're able to get that done and still have our staff focus on their duties.
So lots happening now, and we sure did a lot of work together last year. So what's up for 2024? Well, we're going to continue growing and exploring new opportunities and new programs and looking for ways that our volunteers can help the staff and help our patients at Methodist Hospital to have a really good experience. We are going to have a special training in February on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And the work that we do in volunteer services really fits hand in glove with what they do in the foundation and also in terms of the goals of Health Partners in general. And so whether it's bringing on East Side neighborhood with volunteers or putting lactation clinics and our volunteers out into the community to help, those are all really important ways that and other ways that we believe that volunteers are helping to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion. So we have new badges coming soon, and as soon as we have information about that, we will let you know. And lastly, we said that a lot of our volunteers come to us as grateful patients, but also if you are a volunteer, we know that you are a great ambassador for the program. So if you have friends and family and neighbors that may be interested in contributing and being volunteers, we'd love to talk to them. In the summer, our program will be starting up for the summer volunteers, and we have lots of students join us then. So we welcome the conversation with prospective new volunteers. And if you are a current volunteer, I hope that you feel really proud of everything that's been accomplished in the past year. We feel so grateful to be able to work with you. I know that Chris and Nancy and Susie join me in saying that we have the best job and we work with the best people, and we're really, really grateful to you. So thank you. And if you have any questions, please feel free to call our office or stop by and talk to us. We'd love to see you and love to chat with you. So thanks so much. And thanks for all that you did in 2023 and all that you continue to do going forward. Thank you.